Welcome to another episode of our video series of the mechanics of human cognition.
It's great to be back. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I was just reading a piece this morning on organizational psychology, and it struck me again how many problems, personal, corporate, you name it, really just boil down to a simple mix-up between two ideas.
I know exactly what you mean. We get so caught up in the surface details, the noise, that we completely miss what's actually driving the situation.
Exactly. So today we're going to explore a distinction that, well, artists and writers have known about for centuries, but it's absolutely crucial for anyone trying to solve complex problems. We're talking about the difference between the subject or topic and the underlying theme.
The what versus the how and why. It's a distinction that, once you really grasp it, it's like upgrading the resolution on your perception of the world.
That's a great way to put it. So let's frame it. The basic analogy we're using is that the subject is like an identity.
It's the label. It's the easy surface level what's. You can build it, you can change it, you can slap a new coat of paint on it.
So my job title, engineer, for instance, that's my subject. It's what I do.
Precisely. The theme, though, that's more like personality. It's deeper. It's the inherent message, the pattern, built from, all your experience, your culture, your internal wiring.
And what's really interesting is that it's often discovered in the process, not designed up front.
Yes. It's what you actually are, not just what your label says you are. It's revealed through action.
Okay, so let's start where this is maybe clearest, in creative works. The argument goes that in a film or a novel, the topic is often, well, it's a pretext, a kind of bait.
A kandırmaka, as the original Turkish concept puts it. A kind of gentle deception, maybe? The real work, the author's true intent, is all happening at the level of theme.
I think that's right. I mean, think about the classic example, Shakespeare.
Of course. We hold him up as this beacon of originality, but the truth is he borrowed his plots constantly. Let's say he stole them.
Right. Romeo and Juliet. That story of feuding families and star-crossed lovers existed in Italy long before he wrote his play.
Exactly. So if the subject was the valuable part, we'd have forgotten Shakespeare the moment we found the original sources.
Yeah.
But we haven't.
Because the value isn't in the plot. It's in the themes he wove into it.
It's the universal human truths. The destructive nature of tribal hatred, the overwhelming force of first love, the role of fate. That's what he was exploring. The Montagues and Capulets were just the vehicle.
So we remember the feeling, the why, not just the what. Let's fast forward a bit. What about something modern, like The Matrix?
A perfect example. If you describe the subject, it sounds almost silly. A hero discovers reality as a computer simulation and fights evil robots.
Yeah, we've seen that 100 times in sci-fi.
But the movie became a global phenomenon. Why? Not because of the plot. It was because of the themes it tapped into, the nature of reality, free will versus determinism, what it means to be human.
So the cool leather jackets and the slow-motion bullets, that's all subject, that's the hook.
It's the hook. But the reason it stays with you, the reason people are still talking about it decades later, is the theme. You connect with Neo's struggle, even if you just walk out saying, wow, the fights were cool.
This is a perfect bridge, then. If this works for art, it has to work for understanding people and organizations, and we get this wrong all the time.
All the time. We look at someone and see their subject, their identity. He's a CEO, she's a doctor, he's a carpenter.
And we stop there.
We stop there. But the interesting part, the part that actually predicts their behavior, is their theme, their personality, is their underlying pattern, cautious rule follower, or disruptive innovator. That matters way more than the title on their LinkedIn profile.
And this is why we get stuck. This feeling of, constantly struggling, just spinning our wheels.
Yes. That's the feeling of operating only at the subject level. You're trying to fix a deep structural problem by just changing the label.
So you might say, keep losing your job, that's the subject, but you're not addressing the underlying theme, which might be a deep-seated resistance to feedback.
Exactly. You can't solve a personality issue by just getting a new identity card. You have to go deeper.
And this scales up perfectly to the corporate world, doesn't it? A company's subject is what it makes or sells. Bearings, software, coffee, whatever.
Right, that's the easy part. But the company itself has a personality. It has a theme. And this is where the conflict really comes from.
You're talking about misalignment.
A total misalignment.
Right.
An employee's personal theme might be, say, a need for creative autonomy. But the company's real lived-out theme not the mission statement on the wall, might be rigid adherence to process at all costs.
And that's a recipe for disaster. No one's happy, and nothing is done effectively. We see this so clearly in tech with things like agile methodology.
Oh, it's a classic case. A company decides to go agile, so they focus entirely on the subject. They implement the weekly sprints, the daily stand-up meetings, the specific software.
We check all the boxes.
They check all the boxes of the what, but they completely ignore the theme, the mindset. Agile is supposed to be about, trust, iterative collaboration, psychological safety.
The how and the why.
Exactly. And if you don't cultivate that theme, all you've done is create a new, very expensive, and very annoying form of micromanagement. The tools fail because the personality of the team is fighting them every step of the way.
Which brings us to a really important point of nuance here. We've been talking about theme as this deep, true thing, but theme isn't always good, is it?
That is such a critical point. No, theme is just the underlying pattern,
Yeah.
and that pattern can be incredibly toxic.
So, give me an example.
Think about a parent correcting a child's drawing. The subject is innocent enough. It's art class at home. The parent is teaching the child how to color inside the lines.
Okay.
But the parent, through their tone, their actions, their impatience, might be layering on a completely different destructive theme. The theme might be, you're not good enough, or your own attempts are worthless without my expert correction.
I see. So the child isn't learning about drawing. They're learning a theme of inadequacy.
The theme is what sticks. That's the real lesson. And you see this same dynamic play out on a massive scale. Look at education reform.
Right. We're always tinkering with the curriculum, the subject.
We change the list of books, we change the math requirements. But if the underlying theme of the system remains, memorize facts for a standardized test and do not question authority, then you haven't really changed anything. The core experience is the same. The failure is in the theme, not the topic.
This layering,
Yeah.
subject over theme, it feels very fundamental, almost like a law of cognitive processing.
It is. I mean, all of the hard sciences are built on this idea of hierarchy and classification.
Yeah.
Biology has its taxonomy from kingdom down to species. Computer science has its network layers. You have to move through the layers logically.
You can't just jump from the surface, the subject straight, to a root cause.
If you do, you're guaranteed to make a mistake. You'll mistake the symptom for the disease every single time. And this is why, when we ask why, we have to be careful about what we're actually asking.
There's more than one kind of why.
At least two that are relevant here. There's the why that asks about purpose, about the ultimate intention. Let's call it the purpose why.
Why does this system even exist? What is its goal?
Exactly. But then there's the action why. This is about the choice of method. Why did we choose this solution instead of another one? Why this specific approach? One question targets the deepest intent, the other targets the theme, the structure, and the personality of the action itself.
So really, this whole analysis, learning to separate subject from theme, it's about increasing our cognitive resolution.
That's the goal. It's about seeing more detail, more of the essential concepts at play in any situation. You stop seeing a blurry image and you start seeing the distinct patterns of predictable structures.
You start anticipating instead of just reacting.
And that's the key to making better decisions in any complex system. But we should be clear. There's one more layer.
Deeper than the theme.
Deeper than the theme. If the subject is the identity and the theme is the personality, underneath it all is what we could call the core intent, the meram. It's the foundational drive, the ultimate concern that gives rise to the personality in the first place.
So the core intent is what you truly fundamentally care about.
Yes. And your theme is simply the strategy you've chosen to express that core intent. If your core intent is to feel secure, your theme might be accumulate wealth, or it might be build a strong community. The subject is just the daily task trading stocks or organizing a neighborhood block party.
Subject, theme, core intent, identity, personality, and the soul, maybe, the fundamental driver.
It's an inescapable hierarchy. And understanding how those three layers interact is, I think, fundamental to understanding the mechanics of why we do what we do. It's something we should definitely explore more.
A fascinating and powerful framework from the surface level down to the very core of motivation. Thank you for walking us through this today. We look forward to returning soon with more exploration into the mechanics of human cognition.